profession in the industry. And then we'll close with some questions and answers. If you didn't fill out questions on the survey that I sent out, you will have an opportunity to enter those during our session as well. So just quickly introducing your hosts for the evening. My name is Sarah Beth. I am a campus recruiter focused on hiring quantitative research interns and new grads. I support hiring for both Citadel and Citadel Securities. Before transitioning into recruiting in the finance space, I formerly recruited at Google and Meta.
Hi, I'm Vincent. I just graduated from MIT with degrees in math and physics, and I do alpha research as a quant researcher here on the systematic equities team at Citadel Securities. And that word salad basically means that I make the models to predict stock prices.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vlad. I also just recently graduated from Carnegie Mellon. I have a degree in pure mathematics, and I did a little bit of computer science on the side. And I'm at Citadel working in EQR, Equity Quantitative Research. And I'm also a quantitative researcher. I also took the Putnam exam, and yeah, I'm excited to talk to you guys today.
And before we dive into quantitative research, just some background if you are not familiar, maybe you've just heard the name Citadel or Citadel Securities, but I would be remiss if I didn't introduce them as they are hosts as well. So we have two separate entities. We have Citadel, which was founded first in 1990 by Ken Griffin. This is our asset manager. We also have Citadel Securities, which is our market maker. And so what that means is Citadel Securities provides liquidity. So for example, if someone is interested in buying 10,000 shares of Apple, Citadel Securities is there to make that happen. But two separate entities. Again, I support hiring for both of them. They both hire quantitative researchers. And just wanted to give a very brief overview into the company that is putting this on. So with that, we'll dive into the real meat of the session, which is really demystifying quantitative research. So how we're going to do this is Vincent and Vlad are actually going to walk through a couple of examples that really showcase the type of mathematical problem solving and thinking that they apply to their roles. So with that, I will kick it over to Vincent for this first example.
Yeah, so I'm going to give an example of a problem that I might solve in my everyday work here as a quant researcher. So this example is, say we have a data set of like how related to different companies, like foot traffic, how many people are going to each company, these locations at like this hour on this day, and we have that for like a bunch of days. And so before I get started explaining like the process of like turning this into a model of stock prices, I want to give you a moment to consider like how you would approach this problem. What would you do if you were given this data set and told you had to trade on it? And I think that's a long enough awkward silence. So I will like talk about how I usually approach these problems. So step one is to organize the data, because despite like the little neat table on the bottom of the slides, usually the format's a lot more annoying. So for example, one common like annoyance is that like they might have one table with say like each location with like just a company ID, like a string of random numbers or something, and another one that actually like maps that to like which company each ID actually is. And like there are endless variations of this kind of like messiness of the data. And so after that, I would make a bunch of plots of the data, like scatter plots of say time versus number of visitors, or like just histograms, so many histograms, to get a feel for like outliers and stuff, what the like data looks like, see if anything is wrong. That can happen in a bunch of ways. And after that, like I would have to clean up the data. Like maybe this one company has a bunch of like outliers that makes it look like the data is unreliable. So we would have to rule out that company, for example, or like maybe the outliers are actually in the data, like a store that usually gets 50 people in a day gets like 500 suddenly, and it might be because uh, like the company selling this data made a mistake, or maybe it's because there's I don't know, a Taylor Swift concert in town that day, and this is the nearest coffee shop to the venue or something. And finally, after we've done all that, is the meat of the question, which is how would you use this to model stock price movements? So a natural thing you might say is that when more customers come, the stock price goes up. That's simple enough to say, but how do you turn this into an actual trading strategy? For example, what do I mean when I say more customers? Is it more customers than yesterday, than last week, than last month, than the store next door? And by customers, do I mean total customers across all the locations, customers per store, etc.? Heck, what do I mean by the stock price goes up? Is it going to go up in an hour, a day, a month, a year? All of that is stuff we would have to figure out. And so after all that, let's pretend that I've cleaned up the data and it's magically accurate. And so the numbers in the table are the actual number of humans entering each store at each location at each time. And I also have a model of how that affects stock prices at what time. There are still a bunch of complications, due to the real world factors that we have to consider. For example, maybe it would count, say, the number of staff entering the store, which staff aren't customers usually. So you might want to exclude them from the data set. And there's a bunch of other such considerations. But before I blab about a bunch of examples I came up with, I want to hear about your ideas. So in the corner of the slides, there's a Slido QR code which you can scan and write down your ideas for such real world complications.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep the poll open for a couple minutes. We have some answers, but don't be shy. We're not, don't be afraid of a right or wrong answer, but really think through, given what Vincent said, what are some other variables or complications that you think you would need to consider when making your model?
The Putnam exam is over. This is not an exam. This is just for fun.
I'm already seeing a bunch of answers I really like time zones, holiday events like Black Friday, the weather, customers not buying anything. It would also count the maintenance crew.
Oh, that's good. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, different amounts of visitors at different times of day. Yeah, a bunch of people are questioning how they would actually collect this data. So I'm just going to say, for example, they have a sensor at the entrance of each store. Wow, these are a lot of really good ideas. Someone said the kind of things people buy, there's probably really different profit margins for, say, a luxury brand versus fast food. How many university students in the area, returning customers in the same day, the business being online or primarily in store. Oh, I really like this one. The relative square footage of the store. Is it a big location or a small one? Sensor malfunctions. Yeah, a lot of people saying some version of seasonality, which is a fancy word for it saying the amount of people depends on the time of week, year,